What's up, guys? Welcome to episode 23 of the PJF podcast. We got a special guest. My man Shea is in the building. He's worked with a lot of NBA players. We go deep on skills training, not kind of the surface level stuff that you guys see, the little sound bites that we often hear on social media. Shea is a genius when it comes to the skills training stuff, so we really went deep on a lot of different topics. We talked about shooting myths. We went over like 5 or 6 really good shooting myths that you need to be aware of. And then we talked about spotlight, floodlight. So that's kind of how to turn your vision on and off, how to focus on one thing and then switch that off and focus on what's going on around you. Huge key for basketball players. We talked about building confidence for basketball players. We talked about American basketball versus overseas. Why is Luka so good? Why is he so skilled? Shea has some interesting takes on that. You guys are going to enjoy this podcast. As always, let me know if you have any questions. Let's get it. You're listening to the PJF podcast, a show dedicated to decoding elite sports performance and fitness. I'm Paul Favorites, and I'm an NBA strength and conditioning and performance trainer. If you want to become superhuman, take your fitness and take your sports performance to the next level, this is the podcast for you. Let's do it. All right, guys, we got a special guest today. My man Shea is in the building. So Shea is a genius skills trainer. We've had a lot of great conversations in the past. He's trained NBA players, top high school prospects. So we've had a lot of great conversations, and I've gotten a lot of great skills training ideas. So I wanted to get him in here today and just talk shop. What's up, my man?
Yeah, Paul, thanks for having me, man. I appreciate you having me out here. This is a cool setup you have, and I would go out of my way to come to Anaheim to just pick your brain on certain things I was thinking about. So this is cool that we have a platform for it all.
Yes, sir. So let's get started with a quick background. Maybe how did you get into skills training? Kind of what are your focuses now within skills training?
Yeah, so about 8 years ago, I moved out to Southern California with a buddy, kind of on a whim.
You're from Alaska?
From Alaska
Rare.
Originally.
It's rare.
Yeah, Fairbanks, right in the center of the state. Played my last year of high school and some JC ball in the Seattle area. Went to a 4-year Division II school, Cal State East Bay in the Bay Area. And then moved down to Southern California with a buddy of mine and started doing skills training. And from Fairbanks, Alaska, there's like one skills trainer in the entire thing when I was a kid, the Hajdukovic brothers. And being down in Southern California, it's like you don't realize that's a real gig for
Right.
a lot of people.
Right.
So I started figuring out that world, got in pretty quickly with the Mater Dei crew, and they tend to produce pretty good players.
Mm-hmm.
So I was in the gym, and then that was the lockout year, was the year I moved down here. And so I ended up with a bunch of good players in the gym from around Orange County. Stanley Johnson, Caden Reinhardt, Elijah Brown, Travis Ware, David Ware, Landry Fields, Klay Thompson, and that was kind of all by accident right when I moved here.
That's a good crew right there.
Yep, that was solid. It was fun times.
Yeah, so Shea, I mean, he might not look like it, but he can hoop. I don't look like
that,
it.
brother.
I can hoop a little bit, but Shea can really hoop. Like he got a real good shot. When you guard him, he's not the fastest, but he's got a little wiggle to his game. Just enough wiggle to keep you on your toes, and he's got a quick pull up, and it's cash. So my man can hoop. He plays with his clients all the time. He's the type to just like, hop in at the end of a session, play one-on-one, cook your own client, remind them that they're not there yet. Yeah. So that's a lot of the best trainers can still, go out and put on a show.
Yeah, I think that gives you a lot of credibility when you can compete, even if you're just competing. Because once these high school kids, man, once they get older, like and bigger and faster, they're tough to guard. They make shots. They So as long as you're out there competing, right. There's a lot of respect for that.
Right, for sure. Yeah, and so Shea is really in the trenches. Like there's a lot of trainers who kind of look one way on social media, but they're not like really, really in the trenches. When Shea has a project of like a high school player that he's trying to get to the next level, he goes all in. Like you build almost like this lifestyle around it where it's like you'll travel to see them and you'll go to different gyms and you might pick them up from school. And it's like you become like a big part of their life, which is really cool. Do you feel like really being in the trenches takes your relationship with that player to the next level?
Yeah, I think it does. I think that's something that I found was, I mean, Stanley Johnson was the first kid that I was kind of doing a lot with in his junior and senior year, especially. He really ramped it up. And then Devin Askew, I've known him since he was like 11.
Mm-hmm.
And when he moved out here to Southern California, I spent a lot of time with Devin. And somebody just asked me what makes a trainer really good. And basketball's not super complicated, but the person that can get the person in the gym and be super consistent with them
mm-hmm.
and continue to get like quality reps in and kind of allow them to have a vision of their own game at the same time, that I think means more than like any secret golden ticket you might have when you're teaching. Like there's no golden ticket. So I guess I try and, be along for the whole ride.
100%. That's awesome. Yeah. Devin's, obviously we both work with Devin. His development is next level. When I think about the first time I saw him play, I think he was at a camp, maybe his 8th grade year. And like all of his friends that he was with were like the top dogs. And then Devin was kind of an afterthought. It was like, you could tell he could play a little bit, but he wasn't like, off the charts. And like every year is just slow and steady, just continued to get better to the point where he's at now, going to Kentucky next year. What do you think about his development?
It's been, you said it correctly. It's been like a slow, very almost linear path
mm-hmm.
of getting a little bit better. He was with all the like Kyrie Walker and Josh Christopher, Kendall Munson, like the greatest 8th grade team of all time.
Yeah.
But I think the two qualities that he really has are he goes like all in on things. He's like I'm gonna put my head down and run through for this steal. He doesn't care about like what other people are thinking too much. Irrational confidence a little bit maybe, and we can talk more about irrational confidence in basketball and why that's so important. He would shoot when he wasn't the best shooter. He would attack when he wasn't the best attacker, and that got him just like building. And then he works really hard. I mean, you see it all the time. His focus on reps is pretty phenomenal.
Yeah, he's one of the few guys that I've seen train with me through the entire season. And, he'll train 3 days a week, weight room. He'll still do his skills training every day. He'll do his team practice. Like he can really go. Like he can really work.
Yeah, his that's probably one of his best skills is his relentless. I have to do it.
Right.
At some point he's probably going to have to chill a little bit and figure out how to maximize his time.
Mm-hmm. Right. Let's talk about, while we're talking about it, irrational confidence. What do you mean by that?
Okay, so basketball has a social aspect to it that other games don't have. So in soccer, I kind of have to pass. Like I can be a little bit of a ball hog, but like it's very apparent right away because you don't really have the ball. It's kind of attached to your foot a little bit, and some people are pretty close to having it, but it's not like a basketball where I can just hold that thing. So, and there's 11 players. So volleyball is much more obvious. Like if you just knock it back over on the first hit, you're a jerk, and you need to use your 3 hits. And by the 3rd hit, I'm shooting. I have to shoot. There's no other option. It's like in a one-on-one game after you've taken your 3rd dribble. Like everyone knows that thing's going up.
Yeah.
So in basketball, I have pure possession, so I don't necessarily have to pass it. Every time I pass it, I'm doing it for 5 people, and I'm doing it like, because I chose to, not because the defense necessarily made me.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I shoot it, I also shoot for 5 people, and I said I'm going to shoot it, and I could have passed it. Mm-hmm. There was definitely another option there.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, like to shoot it, you have to be irrational almost every time, unless you're the best player and you've gotten to a shot that you can make, because there's always another pass to make. And that's why you see kids that dither when they play sometimes.
Right. Yeah. No, that's a good point. Like you don't feel bad shooting a shot in a game of 1-on-1. You feel less bad shooting a shot in 2-on-2.
Yeah.
Because it was either 50%, either I shoot or I pass. But you do feel, most people feel bad shooting a shot in 5-on-5 unless it was like a very good wide open shot.
Exactly. Yeah. My buddy Ross says that you have 20% more social responsibility every time you add a player.
Wow. So that adds more pressure. It adds more, like 5-on-5, shooting a shot in 5-on-5 is so much more pressure.
Way more pressure. I shoot for everybody. That's why players that pass the ball at the end of the shot clock, that's why, like, it's funny that they do that, because like they know that they gave this person a shot they have to shoot.
Yeah.
Yeah, forcing a hand.
So that's why people like me just pretend like the play broke up so that I can bring it out, and then the shot clock goes down, and then now I have to shoot. Now it's not my decision; it was the shot clock's decision.
Very much so. That's
the
play.
entire NBA basically.
Pretty much. Once it gets down to like, you can just look off a down screen at 12, and then you have to shoot it.
Right.
What are you gonna do?
Right.
Go make a play.
That's funny. So we've had some good conversations about shooting in the past. There's so many shooting myths out there that still just prevail from probably the 1980s and are still here today. What do you think are maybe like the top 3 biggest shooting myths that you hear, whether it's from parents, from other coaches, kids coming in with a certain perspective on how they should be shooting the basketball? What are your top 3?
I think so. I'm going to give you the myths. Tell me if this answers your question fully enough. I'm going to give you the myths that I think hurt kids' shots the most.
Mm-hmm.
And so like some myths, like, you go with them and you follow it to the end of that myth, and what you find is good shooting on accident just because you shot it so many times.
Right.
But some myths will take you in the wrong direction.
Mm-hmm.
So the first myth is that you need to be all on like the right side of your body. I think we can, and I'm just going to like always just take this back to, if you look at enough good shooters, that's not necessarily true.
Mm-hmm.
And when I say the right side, I mean like your knee, your heel, your elbow, like the whole thing. I think a lot of guys come kind of somewhere from out of their face.
Yep.
And then there's some people that, there's outliers. There's Kevin Martins, Michael Reds that do wild things and make the shots anyway. And we can talk about that more because those are interesting cases. So the second myth would be that you need to have the ball on your fingertips. And I know you've talked about this before. I used to be big into that, and I was really, really good at shooting like shots out to maybe 20 feet.
Yeah.
But as I got further, it got more inconsistent, and I couldn't shoot it, especially when I was moving really fast laterally, because of the forces your hands have to put on the ball and the amount of like flexion that I would get in my fingers, and it would become unpredictable instead of putting it deeper into my hand.
Yep.
Where there's more structural stability and allowing the ball to be kind of railed off my fingers at the end. And I know you've talked about
that's
that,
the
right?
thing, is the structural stability. Like, I love the quote, you can't shoot a cannon out of a canoe.
There you go.
The canoe doesn't have the stability. And so wider surface area, more total surface area equals more stability. And so it's like, if I want to have stability with the ball, I need the ball in my entire hand. And so that goes for fingers, that goes for palm. And then I think where it goes wrong is people go off snapshots, and they take the snapshot too late sometimes. And so, if you take the snapshot up above your head, it's definitely in the fingertips because it's transitioning out of the palm at that point. But if you actually looked at good shooters when they're here in their pocket, their entire hand is on the ball. And then there's some guys like Damian Lillard who it's so exaggerated that their fingertips are actually off the ball. He rests it so much in his palms that you see a space between his fingertips. And that might be an outlier, but it just goes to show that a lot of these good shooters, especially from range, are taking advantage of that bigger surface area.
Yeah, that I'm right there with you. There's like Dame Lillard. That's funny you said that. He'll have these two fingers off the ball sometimes too, because it's locked so deep onto the palm of his hand.
Yeah.
One time I was at the Jackson Center.
Yeah.
In on Moraga,
that
crazy gym.
The Lakers.
Right? that guy.
So the Lakers replica in this guy's house.
Yeah. That's a sweet indoor court.
Yeah.
I was just watching Dame Lillard shoot. He had his own rebounder. He was running his own workout, and he was shooting a lot of threes. And he finished with 10 for 11 from 9 spots from NBA 3. And he would reshoot balls that hit the rim more than once. So if it was like rattle in, he'd reshoot all those. And he finished in it was like 11, 12 minutes.
Wow.
It was like those guys, people don't realize how good they are. Man. It's wild.
Yeah. Watching Buddy Hield shoot at our gym, it seems fake. It seems fake, and his is so effortless. It's like we're all trying so hard to like get a certain, and he's just like, oh, I'm just gonna put this ball in that basket, like the simplest way possible. Doesn't jump, doesn't put any effort. He doesn't even fully extend his elbow. He actually stays tucked a little bit on extension, and it goes, man. It's just a matter of reps for those guys.
Yep, they've done it so many times they can't do it wrong.
Right.
So the third myth, and this is more in the mental space, is that if you shoot, and we can go deep into this, if you shoot, and you're focusing on your technique, like, and you're trying to make a shot in a game, you're putting yourself at a higher risk of missing. And I think you've talked about this before, like a narrow external focus when you shoot the ball.
Yeah.
And you have to allow your body to do it and just do it by the way that it knows how to do what it has to do to put the ball in the hole, almost like you would grab a cup to take a drink. You know, obviously you're going to spill more when you're shooting from 25 feet on the move. But when you pick up a cup to take a drink, you don't think about any individual components of the action. It's all external focus.
Yep.
And that's Buddy Hield it being that easy.
Yeah.
That's why when people are doing that in that way, they always talk about it being like effortless, even if they're shooting from super duper far away, where it would seem like it'd take like a lot of strength or something.
Right. And I know that from experience, because every good shooter that comes in our gym, I always ask them, what do you focus on? What do you think about when you shoot?
Yeah.
The best shooters know the least. They're the least like self-aware of what they're looking at on the rim and how they're finishing. I ask these guys, like, you know, what do you do? How do you finish? What do you think about? Do you look at the front of the rim? And they're like, oh, I don't know, dude. I have no idea. I just shoot. And then the lower level shooters are like, oh yeah, I look 2 inches above the rim and I follow through like this and I keep my elbow high. It's like they're so self-aware, they're internally focused. And it's like you can only consciously control 3 things at a time, right? And that's like a high-level person can only consciously hold 3 pieces of information at a given time. I think like the biggest freaks in the world can hold like 4. And so to shoot a basketball, to make a basketball, you need probably over 1 million, probably close to 1 billion things to go right. When you look inside the body at like the timing between the joints and even at the cellular level, there's so many things that have to go right. And so it has to be subconscious. And so if you're thinking about 2 things or 3 things, elbow high, follow through, look at the front of the rim, now you ruin the fluidity of those other billion things by thinking about those 3 things.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's like the people with, you know, good range, they need that good fluidity. If you're a deep range shooter, you need that fluidity. Those billion things have to go right at the right times, and you can literally shut that off by thinking about one thing consciously.
Yes, very much so. And like, okay, so 1 billion things being right. I have a question for you in shooting as a strength and conditioning guy. So I've noticed, and it's just like small things, like the amount of flexibility and how warm my rhomboids are, like it matters a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, if my arms are slightly different one day than the next, if my legs are slightly different one day than the next, like I have to recalibrate my central nervous system to shoot all the different shots that I shoot.
Mm-hmm.
Do you factor that in to season-long strength conditioning programs or when you're working with someone in a short period of time?
The big thing is going through a full dynamic warm-up. Like when people go to shoot, 90% of hoopers that I know, when they go out to a court, they just start shooting. You start close to the basket. They don't go through a full warm-up. I have a theory that it can really ruin some shots. Like, because like you're saying, like when I go in kind of cold and I start shooting, my first 15 minutes are bad. And because of that, you start coming up with little compensations. It's like it's not going in, and then you might start changing your form. You don't realize, oh, it's just my, you know, shoulder mobility because I don't have enough internal heat. I don't have enough temperature in my body yet. And so you kind of start making like these adjustments, and then, you know, you can throw off your entire motor pattern by that. So for me, it's like, it's mostly what a lot of good coaches do is they'll do priming sessions before their on-court workouts. So before their skills training sessions, they don't do strength and conditioning hard enough to like really fatigue you, because that also throws off your shot.
Yeah.
But you do enough just to prime, right? So it's like you're doing high intensity movements for low reps where it doesn't fatigue you, but you get the nervous system revved up. You go through full range of motion in each joint. Here's a general rule. However old you are, put your joint through that range of motion that many times. So I'm 30. I need my ankles through full rotation 30 times. I need my shoulders through full rotation 30 times. And so I would do that every time before you step on the court. And then just doing, for me, it's mostly like what's going on at the shoulders. Like the shoulders will just lock up and get tight. We're in poor positions all day.
Yeah.
And so just getting out and like even just doing some wall slides, like put the back of your hand up against a wall, slide straight up 15 times, warms up the scapular muscles, kind of warms up the shoulders, full shoulder rotations, that kind of stuff. And then I would do something super high velocity with the basketball. So I like to go out and just shoot straight up in the air. Like I'm not even shooting at the basket. I'm just shooting straight up in the air. And that's getting thoracic extension, because if I'm shooting straight up, you can't be here. You need to be back like this. And so I'm just shooting straight up in the air. Helps warm you up, helps prime you for that higher velocity movement, helps you get that thoracic extension. And then after 10 to 15 minutes of doing this kind of priming stuff, then you go in with your form shooting or whatever. But I think people miss that whole part and they go straight to the form shooting.
Okay, I like that. I like the priming situation, like the getting the shoulders warm, getting the hips all the way through, so that you don't take 8 or 9 shots to make one on your first like tough pull-up or something like that. Right.
And that's why, like, I actually moved. I just talked about this, but I kind of moved some of my sessions for my guys that are on a full body split. Not everybody is, but some guys are doing full body. What I do is I'll do the lower body and mobility and core before, because that's kind of priming.
Yeah.
They feel good after that session. You feel bouncier. You feel like you can go out and shoot. And then you do your hour session on the court, skill session, and then you come back afterwards and you do your upper body session. So we kind of like split things. Like anything before the court, you're priming. You're getting revved up. It's going to help you on the court. Anything that hurts you on the court, we're doing afterwards. So our conditioning and our upper body work, we throw that right after the session. So instead of doing 1 hour of strength and conditioning, we'll split it 30 minutes before, court for an hour, 30 minutes after. So I'm starting to just like realize how much of a factor it is, like what you do before that shooting session. If you're underprepared because you didn't do any warm up or any training, then you're stiff. If you do too much and you went and you crushed upper body, we've all felt, we all know what it feels like to go out the first 15 minutes shooting around after working triceps. End of the world. You cannot hit shots, and people don't understand that level of local fatigue completely changes motor patterns, completely changes your shot. So why should we be getting reps in that state?
Yeah, that's not how you're going to play at all.
No. So I mean, I think people just figuring out how to kind of restructure their schedule, restructure their day, and at the very least, go in and like exaggerate your dynamic warm up and do more shoulder mobility stuff than you're used to before a shooting session.
Got you. I like that. Especially it's like 10, 15 minutes. Yep. And a lot of shooting, and I'm sure you know this, is confidence. And when you make shots in a row, doesn't even matter where it's from, the less you miss, the more likely you are to believe that you're going to make it. Mm-hmm. And even those small amount of times that people spend bricking, just trying to figure it out for that day from that distance on that shot, like that's time that if you'd spent it doing this 10 or 15 minute warm-up you're talking about, you don't have to spend it bricking.
Yeah.
You can have the confidence that when I start shooting, I start making. When I stop shooting, I'm done shooting. Because
you go into this like psychological warfare with yourself, and that first 15 minutes when you're missing shots, and it's like, what's wrong with me? And then every time you shoot, every session, you have to bounce back from that. It makes so much more sense, like you said, to spend that time elsewhere and then come in shooting the right way.
Yeah.
Really make shots. You see that ball go in, and now, everything's changed.
Yeah, you believe in yourself. That's like the deal, right?
Right. So I don't know if this one's a shooting myth, but this is one that I've always thought about. Is when you told me, I think you said you got it from like a golf movie or something, but basically it was like hold on to the ball hard enough to where like it's like holding on to a bird hard enough to where it doesn't fly away, but soft enough so that it doesn't kill the bird. Explain that.
Okay, so what do you call it? That was from The Greatest Game Ever Played, from The Pro, and that, and it was a Shia LaBeouf movie. It was all right. So what I meant by that was, so when you're talking about effortlessness, you can't be trying too hard and have it be effortless at the same time, and at the same time you can't not be trying at all and have an action be effortless. There has to be some action going there. So you're trying to find this balance point, and I think the bird just ended up being the right amount of breakable, so that you can very easily visualize what it feels like to have something in your hand, not be trying to hold on to it, but also not letting it fall out. I guess to add to that analogy, What I found is if you put the ball in your, like, kind of in the deeper part of your pocket of your hand right here, like that palmy area, and you have the right, kind of spacing in your hand, and you get it to move the right way, you'll create almost a suction effect on the ball.
Yeah.
Have you felt that before?
Yeah. You mentioned that before I started playing around with it.
Yeah, and when you feel that suction effect, so what happens a lot in missing is, I would say most misses come from the transition from lifting to releasing or throwing. It's in that little baby area where the ball goes from, because no one blows up their lift usually. Like,
right.
Usually you're fine right here. And then if you think about, like, when you're standing there and it's just like at the free throw line, you shoot a one-hand shot, like, you usually cash those. Those are usually like, 80, 90%.
Mm-hmm.
But when you get wobbly in here, things go left and right. And if you can stick that ball in your hand, so it's like a suction cup on the wall, or like, but you need your hand at that, kind of a tension to make that happen, you can get the ball stuck in a way where your left hand, it doesn't matter as much.
Yeah.
It's just going to help you out, whatever it does.
That's interesting. So it's almost like you need enough tension. Like, you don't want to cue, hey, full relaxation and have a Gumby hand.
Yeah.
But then there's like a point where you get so much tension that it's like, so stiff that you can't even move.
You're flexing your forearm trying to hold the ball.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So it's that perfect balance. That's really interesting. Anything like with the guide hands? I know we've talked about this before. So there was a study that showed less muscle activity in the guide hand led to higher shooting percentages. So that doesn't necessarily mean that the guide hand isn't involved, but the tension was lower, right? So I think they measured the muscle acting on the thumb. I don't know exactly which muscles in the hand they measured, but essentially they studied groups with free throw shooting. And those who had high tension and were really holding on to the ball with that offhand had lower shooting percentages. And then those who barely activated those muscles at all had higher shooting percentages. What do you think about offhand, kind of how much should it be involved? Should we really be doing, this idea of like use a glove to like not be able to use it at all? Or do you feel like the guide hand's actually valuable?
So I think the guide hand has a lot of value. So you have to train your guide hand to do the minimum amount it has to do to make the shot, which is to get the ball so that your right hand can really kill it going into the rim. So sometimes that's going to be nudging it with this part of your hand. Mm-hmm. Sometimes that's going to be the only hand on your guide hand that can really do too much is this in terms of power, and just pushing it just a little bit so that your right hand can finish the play.
Right.
And sometimes it's going to be these three fingers clamping onto the ball because it's coming loose, and almost like you've seen guys do this where their arm goes down. Because this part of your hand is pushing that ball into your right hand so that it can get the right grip it knows it needs. Mm-hmm. I mean, not thinking about it that way, but it's they're working together. Yeah. So to answer the second part, the tools and how you would use them, all you really need to do is gain awareness of what your guide hand does, so that if something, if your thing is to go awry too often or you're using it too much, you can kind of regulate yourself back to balance. So the tool I use is I just tape people's index and their thumb together. This separates the part that would give power from the part that would pull back. Okay. And they're bad shooters usually like that, and you don't want to do it for too often, but especially when they form shoot, I'll do it, and they start to develop an awareness of their guide hand. Because that's what they're really looking for. Like, it's your bad hand. You're not going to be able to do a perfectly smooth motor coordinated movement every single time with all the different variables like we were talking about. Right. So I guess that's my deal with the left.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think a lot of the best, now that I think about it, the best shooters off the dribble do use that guide hand to their advantage. And it's kind of like Kyrie will, you'll see a little bit of this. Steph, you'll see a little bit of this. Kind of like straightforward helping, with the thumb. It's something that you definitely can't think about. Like, you can't watch Steph flick this thumb and think that, I could go work on that. If that's not happening naturally, you're going to mess yourself up by trying to do that.
So what you have to do is you have to do a request for a result. So I want this to feel like that. Like, when I look at the basket and I throw it at the basket, I want it to feel like that, because then I know it goes in, right? And then you have to hope that your guide hand will do it for you. Essentially, you have to
Right,
make
right,
like a
right.
you
Yeah.
have to do like a bank shot request for
Yeah.
yourself,
Yeah.
because like you said, there's no way that you're doing the perfect amount of pressure every time with a
Right.
flip.
Yeah. And then it's also interesting to probably look at backspin. And it's like, if they are getting some offhand activation, is it ruining their backspin? Like Steph's backspin is perfect. Kyrie's backspin is really good.
Yeah.
Whereas some people, it's like they get so much of that offhand involved that it actually changes their spin. And I have a theory that most of that you can't solve the guide hand itself. It's like, why are they using the guide hand? They might have a lack of power that's coming from elsewhere. It might be like their base that's not, stable enough, or maybe it's their fluidity. Maybe they're coming to that lift point and they're staying there for too long and they killed all that momentum on the way up. And so they're kind of doing this 2-motion shot. So now once they're at their lift point, they really need some power. And so because of a lack of power, they compensate by like using extra guide hand.
Yeah.
And so coaches just like try to fix the guide hand. Like, let's just put a glove on you. Let's just use the shooting strap. It's like, that's not the issue. The issue is somewhere else. And now you're going to be a good one-hand shooter with absolutely no power because you didn't fix the real issue.
Yep, I'm right there with you, man. I'm working on that with an ABA kid right now. And so this is one of the great myths, and this ends up in the situation you're talking about, is dad tells his kid, you got to shoot from above your head because you'll get blocked. That's another great myth. That's what I'm at. And what ends up happening is he's also telling him he can't use his guide hand.
Ooh.
So he only has a 12-footer, or he shoots out of his backpack from the back of his head.
Yeah.
And then fakes the guide hand on the back end by like snapping it back to straight. So yeah, I'm right there with you. Those other ways of gaining power. And I mean, that's like the simplest problem to fix. You just shoot a lot of deep one-hand shots once you're loose. Like then you'll know what it feels like to shoot it powerfully with one hand.
Yeah.
Especially if you shoot them like free throws.
Yeah.
And keep working your way back. That'll almost like immediately fix any sort of issue. And people get good at those really fast.
Yeah.
There's so few variables. It's like the ball's right in front of my face, and then I throw it with one hand into the basket.
True. Yeah, it's almost like if you're with one hand, you can't have an exaggerated pause. Like, it's not like you can bring it back above your head and have a set point.
No, you're
the
stuck.
ball will fall out of your hand if you do that.
Yeah.
But if you do that with two hands, you could fake it because you got more stability.
Yeah.
On that topic, you've talked about, I don't know what it was, but I think you were talking about one leg shooting. It was like you were doing like one leg shooting drills, but it wasn't like to increase your balance. It was more so to like train that one motion effortless shot, because I think you were doing like a one leg fadeaway from three, and you were like, it helps my power because I have no other option. But if I want to get this ball there, I have to be fluid one motion.
Oh yeah, I was doing these things. A buddy of mine, he was running Alex. He was running BDA pro days, and he was doing this with a lot of the shooters. It actually trains your guide hand. You do like this weird like side to side jump, and the ball ends up on the side of the foot that's down on the floor, and then you have to take it from it's either your left hip or your right hip straight through into a shot, because you're in a place where you don't have time to, you'll lose all your power if you try and do it in two motions, in the up and then out. So it teaches you to use your guide hand with moving both directions. So when you're left, your guide hand's almost throwing the ball back to your right, and when you're right, your guide hand is trying to stop itself and the ball in the right place for the finish to happen. And so yeah, that was that drill. Yeah,
that's interesting. And then how about, shoot with the legs? That's a myth that's kind of still like bend your knees lower. Your form is always the same, but as you move back, you just bend your knees lower.
Yeah, I think that's dead. I mean, you've seen these guys that are, to me, James Harden, I mean, not in any particular order, but probably Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, James Harden and Dame Lillard are probably the best shooters to me, all over, like in any shot, any situation.
Yeah.
And they all shoot in a similar way, and most of their shots are, standing straight up and down, like for the most part. Little bend in their knees so they have some power into the floor, but okay, so what would you say? you're doing some bounding exercises, and you have like, I don't know, what's the average amount of knee depth that you have in a bound when you're just trying to get like decent height? When your both feet are going like
very
this.
small. I would guess like 45 degrees. It's very small.
Yeah, so that's like, you know, if you got to move fast and shoot, similar. And you know, a lot of those guys, you don't even use all your jumping when you shoot. For most of the shots, especially deeper ones, like it's almost easier to just kind of like pop off the floor and flip it up there.
Yeah.
In one motion.
Yeah, it's almost like any energy you created with your lower body, you want it going into the ball. Whereas a lot of the guys who jump, it goes into their jump and then they lift, and that energy doesn't go into the ball. I feel like there's no great jump shooter who shoots well with range. In today's game, you look at all the top guys, they're all set shooters.
Yeah, they all
barely jump off the ground.
They do, and they have moments where, like on those pull-ups coming downhill when dudes are chasing them for three.
Yeah, like they have the ability.
They can do it. They just only do it when they have to.
Yeah, that's what I call a hybrid. You could hit your set shot from deep, but you can also elevate when you need to.
Yeah.
Devin Booker, I think, is a really good hybrid because, man, that guy can elevate. Like in there, when he's in, 15 feet, he'll elevate over somebody. But if he's just catching and shooting with nobody around, especially these days, not his rookie year, he tried to jump on everything. But these days, he's really just a set shooter. He doesn't get off the floor. Yeah.
That's the way to go, I think. I like the hybrid idea. Kyrie's about as close to a jump shooter as we have, but even he doesn't jump on everything.
Yeah. No, he definitely has a set shot as well. I think consistency is such a big factor there. Like, I can consistently jump 5 inches. And if there's some variability, then maybe I jump 4, maybe I jump 6. But what if I jump 30 inches every time I shoot?
Okay.
I'm going to jump 20. I'm going to jump 25. I might jump 34.
Yeah.
Right? There's bigger variability there, so it's harder to hit that same jump height every time. And then the other thing is obviously fatigue. You get tired in the fourth quarter. Your normal shot where you like to jump 30, all of a sudden we're jumping 15 or 20, whereas I could consistently jump 5 or 10 inches off the ground first quarter to fourth quarter.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah.
That's why all those guys are so good, and they just kind of hop.
Yeah.
Unless they absolutely have to.
And then from a rep standpoint, you see these guys with a true jump shot. Like, can you really make 500 a day? Jumping as high as possible?
You know who made a lot of jump shots in workouts, who shoots a real jumper? My boy Anthony Goods. He played at Stanford. He's my age. He's like 32, 33 now.
Yeah.
He shoots a real jumper, and he would have, 900 shot workouts in an hour and a half.
Wow.
He's amazing.
It's so tough.
I was like, I don't know how you do it, dude. My core is going to like give out looking at you.
Yeah.
He would shoot the spots, 4 out of 5 per spot, 7 spots. He would shoot all jumpers.
That's tough.
But that's like a rare human.
So every shooting workout is basically maximal conditioning and plyometrics combined.
Yes, every time. I mean, he's had a really successful career, and he still elevates and hits his step backs, man.
What do you think about like elevating with little guys versus bigger guys? Because I know some people will say, well, if you're small, you have to elevate. Like, that's your only survival. If you're 6 foot, in the NBA, the only way you're going to get a shot off is elevate. But then I look at guys like Trae Young, and it's like he still gets a shot off, and he doesn't elevate. He just gets it off so quick. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I mean, I think the guys that know the pockets to shoot it from. I mean, to me, Steph's the most amazing. He's a little bit bigger, but he doesn't shoot a ton of the deepest threes. Like, I would say Trae Young and Damian Lillard shoot more super deep threes, like 35 feet or so. Steph will shoot a step off the line, but he just knows the pockets of where the shots are going to be. And of course, he has teammates that are just like running around trying to get him a shot at all cost.
Yeah.
But he finds a way to get open, and I think that's the key. Trae Young, his advantage is he does play out to 35 feet a lot of the time. Like, you have to get all the way out there, he will fire it.
Yeah. And
it's super quick, but I think, as much as the speed of the shot, I think that goes into knowing the game and knowing, like, I'm going a ball screen right here, and, I'm coming off a ball screen right here, and this guy's kind of starting to drop his hip, which means he's going to try and slide under because we're way out here, but I'm ready to shoot it, and I shoot it. And knowing that you're going to shoot it, knowing that you're going to shoot it makes you a quicker shooter.
Yeah.
It makes you look like you have conviction.
Yeah.
Even if you don't have, here's a great guy, an example, Ginobili. he didn't necessarily have a super fast shot, but he had shots that he could get to where he knew he was open for three, and he would shoot them slow. It felt like winding up.
Yeah.
Steven Jackson the same way. Like they're a little bit taller, but yeah, you kind of get what I'm saying.
Yeah, that's interesting because if they weren't self-aware about their game, if you're Trae Young and you don't know that you got these certain spots, and you try to like face up and like jab somebody and pull over them, you're getting that blocked every time.
Yeah, I don't care how high you jump.
Or if he's like, okay, I got a T-Mac like long little cross hezzy and he pulled on somebody 6'4", like he's getting that blocked. And so, I guess knowing your spots. And then the other thing is like, if we taught somebody like that to elevate because they're short, does that slow down their shot so much that because if you're elevated, I think the limiting factor of shooting time, right? Correct me if I'm wrong, but like people talk about, oh, don't dip the ball, all this stuff. I don't think that the ball has anything to do with you getting the shot off. I think the limiting factor is when you get your feet down to when you reach the peak of your jump, when you can actually release. So I think that time, the shorter you can make that time, the quicker you're going to get the shot off.
Yeah.
Right? And so if we say, well, you have to elevate because you're short, then that time increases, right? Your time to peak increases. And so there's some people who are athletic or big, and they can use that to their advantage where it's not necessarily about speed, it's about getting up before you get up because I can elevate above you.
Yeah.
But if you're Trae Young, even if you're jumping maximal height, your 6'4" guard is still going to be able to just stand there and block you. And so for them, it's almost more about like sneaking the shot off quick instead of slowing themselves down by trying to elevate.
Yeah, very much so. And I mean, I think with the distance these guys have to shoot now at those levels. Yeah. I mean, even at the high school level, if you're a 5'10" guard, like, and you're not just cash from three, it's going to be tough for you out there.
It's going to be tough.
Super athletic.
Yeah.
I think with the distance these guys have to shoot from, there's no way something has to give. You can't have elevation, speed of shot, and shoot from distance. Like,
no.
Nobody's ever had that combination.
No.
I don't think it's possible.
Maybe Ray Allen's the closest.
He's probably the closest, but his distance wasn't phenomenal.
Yeah, that's true.
He shot it, most of them right on the line because he did have the elevation. Shot it over his head.
Yep.
Still had quick feet with his elevation.
Yep.
But he's like the last of those dudes.
Mm-hmm.
Like, those dudes aren't really around anymore.
Because is it even possible to elevate and shoot one motion? I don't know if you could
really.
shoot one motion and elevate. Like, you have to sync everything up so well.
So that's why, okay, so do you remember the shot James hit at the end of and he's always a good example for elevation because he never really does.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he does it sometimes. It just looks like one motion, but because he has to jump as high as he can because of the distance or the way he's going, I think some of these guys do jump as high as they can. It's just they have to shoot it also on the way up. They can't do the whole,
Yeah, get to the top and then shoot.
Yeah, maybe J.R. Smith. Like,
yeah,
he had the cold power J.
Yeah, that's true. Release point in relation to like the peak of your jump has a lot to do with power.
Yeah,
if you could shoot like kind of on the way up before you reach your peak, you could shoot from a lot deeper.
Yeah, very much so. That's like put all, like you said, the power from the ground goes into the ball and not into
the jump and then try to muscle your way through the ball.
I hate that feeling.
Oh, it's the worst.
Yeah,
it's the worst.
Hey, you get one good one once in a while, it feels so good, like a tough shot from super deep, and you had all the perfect timing. When those go awry, man, those hurt your soul.
Yeah. So another concept I wanted to talk about was the spotlight versus floodlight. Okay. So that's a super interesting one. First of all, just define those things. I don't think anybody's heard that terminology.
Okay, so I got it from Alan Watts. I listen to a lot of Alan Watts, and he talks about the different levels of things you can focus at. And so from a first-person perspective, I think there's two things that apply here I've kind of added since we had our first discussion about spotlight and floodlight, especially to basketball. So the spotlight would be narrow external focus on the basket, or looking directly at the guy guarding me because I'm attacking him in a way that I have to be aware of, like the Marshall situation that I'm in. Like, he's going to be trying to use his hands and his feet and his hips and his shoulders to stop me, and I have to be using the same things to go by him. I can't pay too much attention at all to anything else. It's like the one-track mind deal.
Yeah.
So the floodlight is, I've beaten this guy. I'm by him to an extent where I can move the ball out in front of me, or pick the ball up to dribble. Now I need to be like I need to see everyone at once. Or even I stopped and I backed the ball out, and I need to see everyone at once and start to gain a feel of what my next decision needs to be in like a more like comprehensive, the whole game view. And so there's always that spotlight, floodlight situation happening within basketball. And some people have, I think the hardest thing for me was as a ball handler, I was like a 2 growing up, I did a lot of shooting. A ball handler, like being comfortable with the floodlight on when things were happening. Like when someone's up in me, can I still have my floodlight on?
Yeah, that floodlight turns off when you get a little pressure, ball pressure.
I think it's the amygdala. I don't know for sure, but I think your amygdala shoots you into your spotlight. Or while I'm driving, like, and I'm going by somebody, and I like, because you feel when you've beaten somebody, you know, like, as I feel like I'm going to win the move right here, am I turning my floodlight on so that I can make a good decision, even if it's to go score?
Right.
And then from that, like, obviously, as soon as you decide what you're going to do, you put the spotlight back on to finish your play. So yeah, that was the physical spotlight, floodlight. Does that kind of cover the?
Yeah. No, that's money. I think so many players struggle with that. I know I struggle with that as well.
Yeah.
It's like as soon as somebody presses up, it's like, doesn't matter what's going on with your teammates, who's cutting. It's like, now I got to focus on this guy. And yeah, it's interesting to figure out, okay, you know, how do we train that? Because you were talking about some general ways, like non-specific of just like, can we just put you in a controlled environment and teach you how to use spotlight, floodlight? Like you were talking about the windshield thing.
Oh yeah, I used to have dots
one's
on my
interesting.
windshield.
Yeah, tell that story.
So like I used to have dots on my windshield, and like if I was just chilling in the car or stopped or something for a while, I would practice spotlight, floodlight by looking directly at the dot and then seeing the outer rim of my visual field, and then looking at the dot and moving in and out and in and out. Yeah.
There's probably drills that you can do, right, where it's like you're dealing with ball pressure, but you got to see certain things, right? It's like so the trainer, I mean, you could go back to the old school, like holding up fingers of like 2 trainers out there on the wings. You got ball pressure. You got to deal with this guy and call out the numbers.
So I usually, that's what I'll do is if I'm by myself, I mean, you can do it as simple as, because what you really want as a player, and I think is you want to, if this is something you struggle with, some guys are just good at it, or they pick it up from watching whatever basketball they watch. You want a strategy. So the strategy needs to be A, what's the position I'm going to hold the ball in while this is happening? And then B, how do I get out of that position if things go all the way awry? Like if he's going to take the risk to crazy gamble on my ball, how do I get out of that position? And so if I'm just by myself, I'll like get up into somebody, push them with one forearm, and just put numbers as high as my hand will go, and make them focus on the numbers, and you know, try and steal the ball from the back. And then at a certain point, I'm gonna like make a cold-blooded attempt at stealing the ball, and that's when they need to turn their spotlight on, because if somebody takes the risk to steal the ball from you all the way, you have to make them pay 5-on-4 in most situations. Like holding at the end of the clock is a little different. But if so then, you know, we have like either they're a good player and I just tell them like, however you got to get downhill as fast as you can. And then if it's not a good player, I'll usually do something choreographed first, give them usually a spin out or something like that. Or if I come around the back of them to tap the ball out in front of them to the other hand and then get downhill.
Yeah. Yeah, because I think some people would think about like, well, you got to be all floodlight, because we have kind of this myth in basketball, like you always got to see the floor. But I think a lot of high-level players also just have a better ability to switch on to spotlight, because you do have to lock in on certain pieces of like sport-specific cues. Like I'm driving and, you know, my help side defender is coming in. Like I got to lock in and see how hard he's going to actually stunt, you know. I got to focus in on him, right? So I don't want to see everything. I want to see him, and then I want to immediately, you know, a millisecond later switch back to that floodlight, and then be able to see, okay, well, where's my players now? Where do I go? So I think it's not like going all in on one of those. It's being able to switch back and forth, like you said.
Yeah, very much so. And the cool part about the spotlight, floodlight from the individual player's perspective is you can use that as a fake. Like you be in a spotlight position, because so you said you're looking at the defense, right? Because you want to know what he's thinking more so than you want to see like good players are good at playing in between people for the most part. Defensive players, especially, like if they wouldn't be good defensive players if they always overcommitted.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to kind of like get a feel for what he's thinking, if he's going to try and steal your ball or if he's going to try and block your shot. So the same thing, they're looking back at you doing the same thing. And if you have your floodlight on, there's a good chance this person might relax.
Yeah.
Or start looking at what you're looking at, or start playing you in a different way. And now because you have a floodlight on, you can see this and you can take advantage of that as a fake.
Yeah. Wow. That's super interesting. And these are probably the guys that are like, we think of as the selfish guys who it's like once they get in the lane, they're only going to score, or they can see the guy next to them. It's like the hero ball, either I score or I drop off directly to the big, but it's like they don't see what's going on outside. It may not be a selfish thing. It may be that they don't know how to switch from, spotlight to floodlight.
I would say that that's probably it. Like, here's a good example. I love his game. And maybe I'm wrong, but CJ McCollum is like the coldest spotlight scorer at his size and athleticism of all time. Mm-hmm. Like, he gets the ball. He never really looks around the court too much. He doesn't use his eyes to deceive people. He doesn't slow play people. He just comes at you and gets a bucket.
Yeah.
A tough
He's a
bucket.
Bucket getter.
He's tough. He's fun to watch.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. It's I think once coaches understand that concept, then you can kind of reverse engineer it, and now you start going back and coming up with drills to actually build it. Like, my brain was racing once we first started talking about this. It was like you could probably do something where you're playing one-on-one with somebody and they're putting ball pressure, and maybe you got like two players to the side, and it's like maybe as you're driving, like you're dealing with this guy, and so you have to focus on them, but then as you're driving, maybe one of them steps up. Whoever steps up, whoever makes a motion, you got to be able to kick to them right away.
Yeah.
Or even like we use the fit lights. Like, you could use fit lights out there, and it's like if something lights up green, you got to be able to pass to that light. Like, just different ways to like put yourself in a true competitive environment where like I'm going and I got to get a bucket, but if something lights up, I got to be able to pass it out.
Do you remember that pick and roll game we used to play?
Which one?
The one where if you go over, you can't go in the key.
Yeah. I like that.
So we used to play it with if we had another coach and it was in a workout, like 2 guys, 3 guys in a workout. We're playing that game, and you could do it with a fit light. It'd probably be better because you'd get the player looking at the right part of the court. So there'd be a coach in the weak side corner going away from the pick, and he would lift up, and if he put both his hands up, the player would have you throw the ball back. And that, just like that simple idea of the player having to be aware of his points don't count. Yeah. It forces you to look almost every time, or at least see out of the back of your eye, out of whatever else you're looking at. Right. Before you make a decision. So simple things like that.
I think the key though is like in that pick and roll game, they're in a competitive environment. Yeah. They're trying to get a bucket, because I think when people work on passing, it's like they put them in that world. So it's like, okay, drive and then try to hit me in the corner. Well, if my focus is on floodlight and I'm looking for you, that's easy. The problem is when it's spotlight, get a bucket at all costs, and then I got to switch to floodlight. So I think the number one missing key for me when people would try to drill something like this is not actually doing it in a real competitive situation.
Yeah, that becomes hard in an individual workout. But as long as you have a couple bodies, any one-on-one with a weak side spacer with their hands up and you get a catch, you have to like incentivize people to throw the pass. You have to either take away their points for not throwing it, or you have to tell them you get more points if you throw the pass and then get a down screen and come back and catch it off a down screen and play one-on-one. Right. But I think the competitive environment is cool. But I don't think a lot of players think about like looking away from driving unless they see a pass. And some players pick it up because it works for them on accident. Like they look at a pass and then they keep driving. Like, oh, should do that more often. Yeah. That just reminds me, kind of same topic. I was talking about, I was gonna give this kid to you, and I wanted him to do better off of pick and roll. And I was like, teach him the reads off of pick and roll. And you're like, if he gets downhill and he's trying to score, I don't know if I want to mess with that. And it's like, you were kind of talking about, you could put him in situations where he learns it, constraints-led approach. Like you just come up with a game to make him learn it, but like you didn't want to break it down to him
like, oh, when you're in this situation, you make this read. When you come off the screen, you got to look here. Whereas a lot of coaches, they want to give you the reads in a direct progression. But it's like if they come off and they're looking to get a bucket, you kind of don't want to mess with that mindset. You just put them in situations where they got to figure it out on their own.
Very much so. Like, I think, and we can go deeper into this idea in general, but players have strengths, and like if you tinker with their strengths, you tinker with like how they feel about themselves as a player and how they're going to perform for you and what you can expect out of them. So you're really messing with your own head by tinkering with someone else's strengths.
Yeah.
So you have to figure out, and this is kind of like, I don't know, you probably do this for strength and conditioning because it seems like a good strategy. You figure out a structure, and then you give them freedom within that structure, and then you kind of assess from there and go like, you know, they're strong here. So if they're strong here, you know, here's some supporting things that are going to help them with, you know, accentuate their strength.
Yep.
So I don't know. That's kind of that was how that.
No, I think about it in the strength and conditioning realm. I always think about it as, for some reason, my mind goes to a dragon. I don't know why, but I got this fire breathing dragon, right? This dragon breathes fire. That's its superpower. It's undefeated in battle because it can breathe fire. And then he comes to me to get him better in battle, and I go, you need to freeze people. And then we go all in on being able to freeze people. Well, I'm thinking that I'm attacking the weakness and I'm bringing that up, but now he stopped breathing fire because he's so focused on freezing people. So I tried to increase the weakness, but that weakness actually didn't help it. It actually hurt his ability to breathe fire. Now he goes into battle and he's freezing people and trying to breathe fire. He can't balance it out the right way. He got away from his natural power of just to breathe fire and kill people. And that's the way that I think about it in a weird way, is like, like what you're talking about. It's like if you have a certain mindset to like go get a bucket, and then I switch that mindset off because now I'm like, oh, actually what you got to do is you got to look for this and you got to make this pass. I think it does ruin people, but like you said, you touch up on those weaknesses. So it's like put them in a situation to figure it out on their own, and don't mess with them. Don't make them a conscious thinker. Kind of make them figure it out subconsciously.
Very much so. I think that, and with shooting, so let's just take shooting as the example, because I think you're making a really good point. Like, people think that technique makes you a good shooter, but a lot of shooting will give you good technique. It'll go back and forth. And so this is the same thing. Like, I can't try and force this player to be, you know, what I'd like them to be for whatever I think they're already good at these certain things. And if I let them be good at those things and just give them a little bit of space to like figure it out, they'll use those things to leverage themselves in the other things. It's like kids coming into the NBA. Like, if you're long and you're athletic and you're, you know, really talented, the chances that you can be an NBA level defender by trying really hard and paying attention are high.
Yeah.
And then let that figure it out for you. That's your one skill that you have that's guaranteed to work in this league. Is you're 6'7", you jump high, you got long arms.
Yeah, hang your hat on that, get on the court, and then we can use that as leverage to figure some other stuff out.
Yeah, and I think it works across disciplines, and it's just general good strategy.
Right.
Yeah, my wife and I talk about it as the strategy for, you know, we're going to have a kid here pretty quick, for raising our kid, is like, find a little bit of structure, give him some freedom within the structure, let him figure it out. Where's he strong, where's he weak?
That's huge. That's huge. Okay, let's talk about Luka, one of the most skilled players on earth already.
Yeah.
Dude's nuts. But let's just talk about that in the grander scheme of, like, is America failing our basketball players? Why is he so much better than a lot of our Americans that we're developing on the skill side? Do you see any holes in American basketball?
You know, I've been thinking about this for a long time, and Luka was like the great manifestation of this question.
Yeah.
Because we have a very, I guess, in a way, privatized grassroots basketball scene. We don't do a whole ton at the club level year round. You have the high schools and you have the AAU programs, and it's compartmentalized, and it's, you know, these kids are committed to this at this part of the year and this at that part of the year. and so there's not a whole ton of continuity in coaching. And then we have this massive system where you have thousands and thousands of high school players all playing against each other, and they're segmented a little bit, but it's not a super density of talent. And so if there is a problem, and I don't know if it's a problem, it's hard to tell. If there is a problem, it's in the elite talent sector, and it's the players that are in high school can't develop themselves the way they could if they could play against better competition. Mm-hmm. So the play, like Luka, he's 15, he's playing for Real Madrid. I don't know if he was on the top team or if he played a couple minutes or if he's on the second team. He's playing against men when he's 15.
Yeah.
Where he should be, learning how to be a role player, learning how to practice hard, learning how, and I don't know if he has these habits. Maybe he's just, was just a jerk and just, was like, one day when I get my turn, it's about to be on.
Yeah.
And he got his turn. But you learn to develop empathy with your teammates because you're the guy that they're passing to shoot the three in the corner at the end of the shot clock because they got double teamed. So you learn how to be that guy. And then, you kind of like ascend slowly.
Oh, that's true.
So
you ascend into being that guy.
Yeah.
Whereas here, you're that guy
the whole
forever.
Time. Like there's players that are currently that guy that are 14.
Yeah.
You've seen it, of course. And so what you have is super competition here, and the best bodies and the best athletes and the most culture. But at a certain point, I don't know, there's a lot of hype and there's a lot of expectation, and it's hard for kids to figure out how to play together a lot of the times. And that's why college a lot of times looks like a monumental struggle to play out there. And as far as the best of the best go, we just have a hard time producing someone as ready to play as young as Luka Doncic.
Yeah.
And it's because how am I going to learn when I'm 17? How am I going to learn how to play like a pro player when all I play with are other high school players?
Right. So
my quick fix is you have to expand the G League, and you have to make a second tier of G League teams in between Nike EYBL 17s and some of the best Gauntlet and Under Armour teams, and what the G League is currently. Because all those kids that go to college, it's still too watered down. That's why there's an argument as to whether a lot of NBA teams are using EYBL 17 stats to predict someone's ability as an NBA player.
Yeah.
Instead of college stats.
Yeah.
Because you have a condensed talent pool. It's 400 kids on the EYBL teams. It's 300 teams in college Division I, and you don't know who Kentucky played Evansville this year. And not to say that Evansville's not a good team. They're obviously good enough to beat Kentucky, but it's not. Tyrese Maxey isn't playing another 5 Tyrese Maxey level players.
Right.
So that's a quick fix. I don't think it works because I think the finances don't match up with the expectations, and the hype machine's real, man. Like because of American individualism and the way that we celebrate the high school athletes, confidence is like this crazy, like, don't drop it.
Yeah.
It's like a glass ball, and if it falls and hits the ground, people are going to go crazy.
True. Yeah, that's really interesting. It's an interesting point about how, Luka can ascend to being that guy, because I always talk about that. That's one of the biggest limiting factors for American players is we all grow up that guy. Shoot, I was that guy, and I'm 5'10" with no genetics. Like, and then you get to this point, and for most of us, it's college. You get to this point where you're no longer that guy, and now you got to fit a role, but you have no idea how to do that. So you got 10 players on the team who feel like they're that guy, and only one of those guys can be that guy. So, and that's like these NBA players who are super talented, but they're out the league in a couple years. It's like they never found that role.
I mean, I think guys in the NBA have taken that a good amount. I think when you look at Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, they were, and Robert Covington almost made it to that level, but he's another guy who came, just slow ascent guy. And he figured out how to be a part of a team, how to find value even if it wasn't exactly what he wanted to do out there, provide value to his team, and eventually they all got they got a shot to be the dude,
right?
And they were good enough in the other areas to do it,
right?
That's the key.
What is it about American, why do we always complain about American
Yeah.
basketball because we're here and we
Yeah.
see the problems. Like we don't know the problems of every other country, right? Like if we were
Yeah.
over there, we'd be complaining about the problems in that country. So, but we all, I mean, everybody does this. Every basketball mind sits down. We complain about American talent. Why are we so
Yeah.
much better than every other country?
Well, have you seen us move? Have you seen us
Is that
in
what it is?
international play get
Yeah.
up and guard and be like, just like no one can guard like we guard.
So we're just better athletes.
We're better athletes, and then we do have, okay, so we have a selection process that values certain things, and our selection process values the combination of like athleticism and skill, really, and with a heavy emphasis on like future size and athleticism and your ability to move.
Right.
Because if I'm an NBA executive, I need you really good when you're like 24, 25. I don't need you good when you're 17, 18, 19, whenever you can get to the NBA. I mean, it'd be nice, but not, how many guys come in just killing?
Right.
Like 2 or 3 every year. And so we select for those things, and we kind of like, it just ends up being a hodgepodge of those kids playing against each other without a whole bunch of structure over all those years. And, that's kind of just who you end up with. And it's just the most athletic, highest skilled, players in the country. And it's, I think other places, when they're teaching, well, they have the kids together for so much longer. And not everywhere is perfect, of course. Like, we have a better system than a lot of places. And I think we probably, it's hard to say if we fail less kids on the top end, but I think we find we promote athleticism, and so we find a lot of really good athletes, and that's why the NBA looks the way it does.
Yeah.
I don't know how else to say it. It's in a combination of athleticism and the other countries not having those bodies and having to rely on other things to be successful.
Yeah. I think also kind of the culture that we built around basketball, it matters so much here. I think that plays a role. I think how much players go out and play. Like, I feel like in some other countries I've seen that they train more, structured training, structured team practice. But over here, it's like we play, like after practice, the real hoopers, 1-on-1, 3-on-3.
Yeah.
Like, we're addicted to just hooping. And I noticed this specifically with some teams that came over from Asia. I think that probably we both worked with. And, everything was so structured. And it was like their drills were so structured. You could tell they passed so structured, but they didn't know how to like really, really get outside of that and hoop and play naturally. And we were playing, actually, we were at the map, and one of the guards was guarding me. I don't know what team it was. It was from somewhere in Asia. And this dude kept pressing up on me, and every time I blew by him, like Americans, they've hooped enough. Like these high-level American players, it's like, oh, you're fast, I'm going to give you some space, and then when you pull up, I'm going to close out hard.
Yeah.
And it's like over and over again, and I think you were talking to him, you're like, this is what you got to do, and he couldn't figure it out, and it's like, it dawned on me that this dude just hasn't hooped enough. Like, he's played enough structured basketball, and he's done enough like practicing and training, but he hasn't like really guarded enough fast, shifty players to understand this concept. Yeah. Whereas any like high level American player would adjust right away.
Well, yeah, I think that's the
it's like what I'm trying to say, it's a feel for the game that Americans have, and they develop that through playing more free, unstructured basketball.
Yeah, and I mean, even just through playing, I mean, look at how the AAU is structured. Like, if someone can't shoot, you don't guard them.
Yeah.
You play a zone. I mean, you play zone until you're 12U now about.
Right.
And so, like, I think guys hoop a lot. Guys, they just play so many games. I think they play way more games over here than anyone else, too.
Yeah, which you could argue bad for your body, but probably good for you as a hooper and figuring stuff out.
Well, if you're the best player and you take all the reps, like, it's great for you because you're out there doing it.
Yeah.
I forget who was guarding you that day, but I do remember yelling like at somebody like, dude, you're blowing. He was messing the game up. It was just like bucket for Paul, kick out for 3. And I don't know who taught him to do that or why he couldn't figure out that, like, give my man space. This dude's athletic.
It dawned on me right away. I was like, oh, he hasn't hooped enough.
Yeah, he just thought that I get up in people.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's also a mindset thing because I've worked with some teams from different countries, and it was like, don't do what's right, do what's hard. So it was like, we got done with like an hour of training, and the head coach came up to me and he was like, that was just a warm up, right? He was like being sarcastic. He's like, you got to go harder. That was just the warm up. And I'm like, no, that's what they needed. They needed stimulation, not annihilation. And they're used to like 3-hour strength and conditioning sessions. Push them until they're dead.
Really?
And I'm like, that's why your guys aren't getting more athletic, is you have this mindset. And yeah, so I think a lot of other countries, it's just like, it's still that mindset of just go hard, and that's all there is to it.
Yeah, I found that in other places as well.
And it's probably the reason I brought that up. It's probably the same mindset of that kid. Is he's like, oh, I'm getting blown by, I'm going to go harder. I'm going to guard him closer. I'm going to try harder. No, it doesn't work like that.
That's funny. Little kids do that sometimes. Have you ever noticed little kids will do that?
Yeah.
Like, especially the like more feisty ones. They think by getting closer and fouling you more that you're less likely to score on them.
Right.
Yeah, that's funny.
That's funny. Well, that pretty much sums it up. I mean, that was great conversation. Appreciate you coming out. We'll definitely have you back for a round 2. If you guys have questions, let us know in the comments. Next time we do a podcast, we'll address your questions. So I appreciate it, my man.
Yeah, thank you for having me out here, Paul. It's always fun chopping it up with you, and I'm glad we have this platform to share it. I'm down to answer anything, man.
Yes, sir.
I'll be back soon.
Yes, sir. All right, guys, thanks for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Be sure to leave us your questions in the comments. Check out my man, Shea. We'll put his Instagram handle right here. He's a genius when it comes to this skills training stuff. You're going to want to follow along with his journey. Also, if you're ready to sign up for any of our online programs, check out pjfperformance.net. We got our ball handling program, Vert Code Elite, Vert Code Bodyweight. It's off season. We're getting to the next level. I hope you're ready. Until next time, I'm out.